Kyle Klingman with Trackwrestling, and we have an opportunity to interview the number one ranked team in the nation. We are interviewing the coach, not the entire team, but Steve Costanzo is the head wrestling coach of St. Cloud State University. 4 out of the last 5 championships in Division II. How are you, Steve?
Very good. Thanks for having me.
Great to have you on, man. And thinking about going in number one and the Division II NCAA Championships, you guys were there. Everything was set up. Did you have any thought that this might get pulled off, or were you thinking, you know what, we're gonna get canceled at some point?
Uh, yeah, I really felt like once the NBA announced that their season was, at a closure, I felt like that was, I believe that was on Wednesday or Thursday morning. As soon as that happened, I thought, man, we'd be really lucky to get this thing pulled off. And but it's you never think things like that are going to happen. It just seems so unrealistic. And we were there, the mats were down. We just got done with our coaches meetings. We're getting ready to meet with our team one last time and get ready to go. And got an email 30 minutes after the coaches meeting saying that the event had been canceled. And it was a pretty short email. It was no more than a paragraph. So it's just hard to believe.
How'd you break the news to your team?
But we were kind of talking about it in a room in the hotel, and amongst our coaches and guys were just hanging around and stuff. And once the news broke, it didn't take too long to get down the hallway to the other rooms and so forth. And we told the guys to load the bus, gather their things up, load the bus. We were on the road 30 minutes later, and just let everybody be to themselves for probably about an hour and a half. Not a word was said on that bus ride. And then we pulled the bus over. Guys were getting a little bit hungry and thirsty. At that time, everybody grabbed a sandwich and a drink, and then we kind of started our conversations with them at that time.
What was the response?
There were a lot of tears by those kids, and some took it a little bit harder than others. Everybody handles things a little bit differently individually, so sometimes individuals keep things to themselves, and in other situations, situation like that, it's kind of hard to hold back any emotion at that time.
How did you take it personally?
Just numb. I'm okay with the situation personally, like for myself. It's just when I see those guys hurting, I hurt. So that's the difficult part about it, is you hurt for them. And it was an opportunity that was taken away from them. We had 3 seniors on the team, and they seemed like they did everything right. They were sitting in a good spot in the bracket. I thought all 3 individuals had an opportunity or chance to win a national championship. All 3 were seeded number 2 in the tournament. But regardless whether it's a senior or freshman, you really feel bad for each one of those guys.
What comes with expectations to win championships? Of course, being number one, everyone expects you to win. You've won 4 out of the last 5 seasons and calling it a dynasty. But does that make it harder to coach and to really bring the best out of your guys, to focus on the performance rather than the results?
You try not to talk about, the wins, the championships, the records and all that. Just take one match at a time and prepare 1 week at a time, 1 day at a time. And that's what we've done all season. And that's what we do every year. So, the pressure is there, obviously, but our guys handle it pretty well. And I think it's because we just don't make a big deal about it. We focus more on our performance rather than the outcome. And by doing that, I think good things happen. Good things have happened for us. So that's the way we continue to train and live our lives 1 day at a time, and just try to get the most out of our guys each day.
Before you won your first championship 5 years ago, 6 years ago, you had a string of 3 second-place finishes. What did it feel like to finally get it done?
Well, it felt good. After going through 3 runner-up finishes, it just didn't, it was maybe seemed unrealistic that it could ever happen, I guess. But once we got that first one, I think it made things a little bit easier in terms of, guys believing that in themselves and believing that this program could achieve things like that. So I think it started something, though. Most definitely, it's kind of like that individual broke that 5 mile or the 1 mile run. The individual from Oregon broke that, and how many guys after that broke that 5 mile barrier? There's several individuals after that. So kind of the same case, just a lot of believing and trusting and implementing the right training methods and so forth.
Brady Wilson's your assistant coach there. What does he bring to the program? Just a great, solid guy. He was a heavyweight at Minnesota State Mankato. Did you actively pursue him to come on your staff?
I didn't because I didn't know he was in the market at the time. I got his application really late in the game, and I really wanted a big guy. Of course, I knew Brady very well because we competed against him, and always had a lot of respect for him as a competitor. Hard to believe, but him and I will be going into our 10th year together this up and coming year. But he's been great. He has a lot to do with our success, no doubt. The guys love him. He's loyal. He's honest. He's hardworking. I think he's everything that a head coach would want out of an assistant coach. So I'm really fortunate and lucky to have him.
Of course, every team has their number one rival. Would you call Minnesota State Mankato your top rival?
They're all our rivals. Every team we step out there against is a rival team, and especially in the conference. It's kind of fun about this conference is there's some pretty good tradition in this conference with some of these schools in terms of wrestling, and we've had some really good duels over the years. So I consider them all rivals. I don't think one match is more important than any other.
All right, then what environment gives you maybe the most hostile environment? Where is it hard to compete?
Well, I don't want to give too many kudos out there to Upper Iowa, but it's really hard to compete in that gym. Heath Grimm does a great job of getting that place to the right atmosphere for a wrestling event, and it's tough to wrestle there. It's not one of our favorite places, but when you go in there and you compete well, I think it says something about your program and says something about what you're doing. So it's a tough place to wrestle, but we can't look at the negative part about it. We have to look at the positive and look forward to going back down to Fayette, Iowa next year and wrestle the Peacocks.
We've talked about your background being at University of Nebraska, Omaha, and you were under head coach Mike Denny. Of course, they dropped the program in 2011, which we've also talked about. But just thinking about that, just how it transpired and winning a championship and breaking the news right after that, can you relate to why that would happen? I'm almost dumbfounded and don't even know how to ask questions about why they would do it and even their approach. How do you rationalize some of that, Steve?
I don't think you can rationalize it. And still to this day, it's really hard to believe that happened. And it's hard to think how I would have reacted if I was Coach Denny. I think he did a great job bringing his team together and fighting back, not just letting one individual take that away from you. He rallied his troops. He rallied a whole wrestling community to get behind each other and fight back. And it's hard to swallow. And although I was coaching here at the time, and you got there's a lot of memories at wrestling at Omaha. Mike Denny, UNO wrestling program. There's no doubt I wouldn't be where I'm at today if it wasn't for UNO wrestling and Mike Denny. So, but it's hard to rationalize. It wasn't right. Certainly wasn't done right. Being the fact that you're in Kearney, Nebraska at the time, and Trev Alberts is in Omaha, Nebraska, which is a 3-hour drive, but you break it down to Coach Denny over a phone call. That's probably not the man-like thing to do or the professional way to do business, in my opinion.
Do you feel like your administration supports you?
I do, and you have to trust that that they support, believe in you, and they've given us the resources that we need here to be successful. And why wouldn't I think that they don't support us? You always want more. It's human nature. But at the same time, I mean, they allow me to do my job. They don't micromanage me. They seem happy with the direction that we're going. We just got done here not too long ago cutting a few sports. And, of course, wrestling was probably in the discussion at that point, but it wasn't one of the decision makers. Wrestling's still here and it's still strong, and we're going to continue to go in that direction, keep it here for as long as we can.
What can we learn from that to be proactive and to make sure that you keep your program? Old Dominion just dropped. That's a Division I program. But are there ways that wrestling can continue to stay relevant with administrators so that this doesn't happen?
Well, first, I think you've got to educate your student athletes. And especially in the sport of wrestling, we talk about it all the time in our room about just doing the right things. And whether it's from a community or social standpoint to academically, it's way beyond wins and losses on a wrestling mat. Of course, that's part of it, but there's a lot of other factors that go into it, and making sure that you guys are living the right lifestyles, and keeping their engines clean, and supporting one another, being good leaders in the community, and so forth. That's first and foremost what it comes down to: educating your guys and making them realize that you can't take this opportunity. Don't take this sport for granted. And I always tell them that, we want this sport to be around for the generations to come. And hopefully someday that their kids get the opportunity that we all have.
It seems like a lot of times football and basketball get a lot of the credit and people rally behind those sports. But do you feel like there's a fan engagement? Do they embrace the wrestling program and the championships you've won?
Well, I would certainly hope so. I know we've been the only program in school history to win a national title, but not only one, but we've done it a couple times. But it's not just about winning the titles; it's about doing things the right way, and that's what we have to continue to do. We have to continue to graduate our guys. We have to continue to put academics first, and market these guys the best that we can. So when they do graduate, they can go off into the community, get a good job, and have good things to say about not only our wrestling program, but our institution as well.
How are you connecting with the athletes right now to keep them engaged in the program, even though you can't work out with them?
Well, phone calls, texting, emailing, as much as I feel necessary. Just continue to remind them that to not look for excuses. Now's a really good time for a lot of student athletes to sit back and maybe make excuses about things and so forth, but we can't feel sorry for ourselves. We have to continue to go forward. We have to continue living there. We have to stay creative. There's a lot of things these guys can do to maybe gain some ground ahead of the competition a little bit, or it's just one day at a time, and we can't sulk about it and feel sorry for ourselves. It is what it is, and we just have to make the best of it.
There are 5 college divisions, and ranging from junior college all the way up to Division I. Where does Division II fit in that? How is that unique from the other 4?
Well, I don't know, unique in terms of wrestling competition. I think all 5 divisions have great wrestling, especially when you look at the top. Best guys at the top can wrestle in any division, in my opinion. Some divisions have a little bit more depth than others. What's nice about Division II, there's nice balance in this division. That what I mean by that is, you can actually still be a kid and do other things besides just be gung ho about wrestling all the time. And I'm cool with that. I'm cool with being gung ho about wrestling and putting wrestling right up there near the top in your life. But I think there's some other things that are important as well. And I think this is a great division to where individuals can come to a division like Division II and focus on wrestling, focus on academics, focus on clubs and organizations. And again, it's about making themselves marketable so when they graduate, they can get a good job. That's really what it's all about. because we know that not everyone's going to go to to international stage and Olympic wrestling and maybe even MMA. We know that that's a very, very few amount of individuals that will do that. But what we do know for certain is, this day's eventually going to end, and it goes fast. And when it does end, you better be ready to make that next step in your life.
In a very real way, I've suggested this. I think people think I'm joking, but I think you're the guy that can help me pull this off. I want a team poster with Brady Wilson in the middle, and it's called the Brady Bunch. Why hasn't it happened?
I think we can make that happen. You're going to have to continue to remind me about that, because I'm all for that. No
Yeah.
doubt about it. That's a cool idea. And matter of fact, you bring it to my attention before the year starts, and we'll definitely figure something out.
And it doesn't have to be the exact, how they did the Brady Bunch intro. It could be anything you want with them rallied around the Brady Bunch. I don't know if people remember that show, but it's a good way to remind them about the show and use Brady Wilson's name.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, he means a lot to this program, and he deserves something like that. And I know if he heard about that, or if he watches this little podcast deal here, he's not going to like that. He's a pretty modest guy, but we don't care. We're gonna, we'll.
I know you don't want to be in the limelight either, so this is a good way for you to get out of that.
That's right.
Yeah. Well, thanks for taking the time and breaking down what transpired. It's fascinating times right now, unprecedented times, but thanks for sharing your thoughts, and all the best as you go for another championship next season.
Thanks, Kyle. Appreciate you having me on, man.